Hello and welcome to Success is Never Accidental. I'm Lynne Peyton and I'm passionate about helping individuals and organisations to get better outcomes and personally to feel more fulfilled. And it's my belief that the key to success in any agency is to have strong, effective leadership. And that's why I developed the Core Leadership Development Programme to strengthen leadership capacity in 4 key areas. The C is for communication. Leaders have to be effective communicators, and that starts with listening to understand. The O is for optimization of all the resources at our disposal, but it starts with managing our mindset, and it's also critical that we manage our time. The R is for relationships. Effective leaders know that they must have a network of go-to people and people they can rely on to partner with to get things done. And the E is for evaluation. It's so critical that we reflect on everything we do and we do more of what works and we stop doing things that don't work. So on this show, I get to interview some highly successful people so that you can learn from their insights and wisdom. But most of all, success is about taking action. So at the end of every podcast, there's going to be a challenge. And it's a challenge to you to reflect, to decide, and to act. In other words, to do things differently going forward. Now, we all know Reebok as a global sports brand, but it started from very humble beginnings in Bolton near Manchester in England. My guest today is the remarkable Joe Foster, who with his brother Jeff created the first Reebok shoes in the late 1950s and by the 1980s had turned it into a global success story. But it wasn't all easy. In his book, Shoemaker, Joe describes some of the challenges and triumphs of turning a small local business into an international brand. I had the pleasure of meeting Joe again recently in Chicago and learned that he has no intention of slowing down. And as well as motivating entrepreneurs at speaking engagements all over the world, he is also mentoring a number of startups. So please help me welcome the legend that is Joe Foster. Hi, Joe. It was so good to get to chat with you again last week in Chicago. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on today to share your wisdom.
Oh, and that's a pleasure. It really is a pleasure. And we love meeting the two of you. We did. And yes, amazed at the amount of traveling you do.
And you too. I think you definitely do more than me. Joe, I feel like the title of this show was just made for you because your journey definitely was not accidental to success. So you and Jeff founded Reebok in 1958, Joe. What were some of the early challenges and how did you address them?
Well, we were young. We were mid-20s. We were naive. What else? What could go wrong? And of course, we had to leave the family company because the family company wasn't working. It was going down. So we left. And the good thing that we had done, one of the best things we had done is before we left, 12 months before we left, we actually went to college, to shoemaking college. And what that did, we learned a bit more about shoemaking. Of course, you pick up what you pick up within your own factory, but we needed to go to learn a lot more. So we learned a lot more by going to college. But what we did get was friendship and networking. We had a lot of people there at college. So when we did leave, when we left the parent company and we wanted machinery, materials, advice, we could go to college and talk to these people. And that was tremendous for us. That was absolutely tremendous. But you talked about the problems. Well, the problems, the chosen name was Mercury Sports Footwear. And we're 18 months into our business, our young company. And the accountant says, "You're doing well, Joel. You're doing okay. You better register that name." What? We didn't know. Why?
The trouble at the beginning is we never know what we don't know. So the name and the brand name was your very first challenge.
That was the very first challenge. And he sent me to a patent agent. And we don't have enough time to go through the story. But if you read Shoemaker, you'll get the full story. But the name was on offer because it was owned by or been registered by British Shoe Corporation, and they offered it to us for £1,000. Well, we had just set up our company, our whole factory, for £250. £1,000 was way out of our reach in those days. We couldn't do such a thing. So he said, well, you'll have to change your name then. Don't bring me one name, bring me 10. Now, that's a challenge to begin with, because this is a company you've got to be in love with. And yet he said, bring me 10 names. We had a lot of names like Cougar Sports, Falcon Sports, all these. We made a list. But I had, let me take you back to 1943. 1943, we were in the middle of World War II. I'm 8 years old. Like COVID, we couldn't go anywhere. But I won a running event. I won a 60-yard race. I went up to collect my prize, and my prize was not a football. It was a dictionary. I'm 8 years old. We're in the middle of the war. We have no schools open, but I win a dictionary.
And you were thrilled. You were just thrilled to get a dictionary.
Absolutely, yes. But I would have loved the football. However, fast forward now to 1960, we're looking for new names. My Webster's American Dictionary, which I'd received, was there by my side. I liked the letter R. I opened it at the letter R and just fumbling through a bit, soon came across REEBOK. Reebok, what's that? It's the South African Gazelle. We're a running company. Gazelle. Perfect. Top of the list. Took it to the agent, told him that's what I wanted. 2 weeks later, he came back and said, you can have your name. So we got Reebok. And we thought, well, Reebok's a better name than Mercury. That's pretty good, that. And we've got that by default, as it were. 4 years into our business, we were challenged by Adidas because we had a silhouette of 2 stripes and a T-bar. They said that's too close to our 3 stripes. It wasn't really, but we didn't have the money to fight it. And we learned that we could do something different. So we changed it. And we got the Vector, which is a better silhouette. So what did we learn? We learned that challenges are opportunities. And that's what we learned, that challenges are opportunities. So it's something you shouldn't worry about, a challenge. Don't treat it as a problem, treat it as an opportunity.
Absolutely, Joe. And my father always said the only day he was beaten was the day he didn't show up. If you showed up, you would always find a way.
Indeed, yes.
So you talked about Adidas there, and brand identity is so critical in the sportswear industry. How did you differentiate Reebok from major competitors like Adidas and Nike?
Well, I think in the first place, we were so small, we had to look for what we called white space. Where can we go that they're not? They wouldn't worry about small sports, such as cricket in those days. They didn't worry about cricket. Then fell running, orienteering, and there was a small sport in the north of England called rugby league. So we went for these white spaces, and we began to own it. Plus the fact that within a 50-mile radius, we could go to every athletics club in that area and talk to them directly, and we could deal. And we built a relationship with the athletic clubs. We also built a relationship with the rugby clubs. And that relationship was far better than somebody going into a shop and saying to the shopkeeper, what do you have? No, they would come to us. We would go to them. So we built that relationship, and very soon we became the number one, we'll say, running company in the country. We've grown and we grew strong on that. And we had some really good ideas on what to do and how to build our company. But when it came to what do we do next, do we add some product to our product range? Well, soccer or football, whichever, was still out of range because Adidas was so big. Or do we expand territory? Do we go into Europe? Do we go into America? We were already okay with Europe. Well, not with Europe, with the Commonwealth. The British Commonwealth, that was okay. We could deal with Canada, we could deal with Australia, India. That was okay. But the big market was America. So it was a question, okay, do we go to America? Well, nobody wanted me to go to America because it was expensive to travel in those days. And what do you do? We could only ever go to the NSGA show in Chicago and meet people. But the British government decided, and I saw an advert that they wanted us to advertise, to sell abroad. They wanted us to export. So if we would go to Chicago, they'd pay for the stand and they'd pay for our return airfare. So that was easy. I went. And I didn't sell anything on the first occasion. And in fact, it took me 11 years of going to America before we actually got into the market. I had 6 failed attempts, 6 attempts where we picked up a distributor, somebody would like to help us. 6 of those just failed. And it was only when we, with Runners World, we got a 5-star rating. Then it was different. Instead of us pushing, they wanted us. Suddenly we wanted on the market, and that made the difference.
It seems to me, Joe, that listening to you, your strategy was all relationship based, so important that you made connections with people in your industry and built it from the ground up. But I'm also hearing persistence and incremental growth, a bit at a time. How important is timing and judging market conditions and making your move at the right time and place with the right people?
Well, we were very lucky. We never, ever had a recession because sport has always been growing all the time. So you might say that we were not that clever, but we were in the right industry, and the industry was always expanding. And for us, you're right, incremental growth. How can we do something extra? Can we have a distribution here? And we did a lot of things, some good, some failed. Our first attempt at a distribution in the UK, and it was a good idea. It was a friend of mine who was sales director for the company, and they only made football boots, so their business was in the winter. We made sneakers, running shoes, everything else. We made a lot of stuff. So going to them made a lot of sense that they would sell. Plus the fact that our cash flow would immediately be brilliant. The trouble is, 12 months after we joined with them, my friend left because he didn't get on with the new owner, and he went somewhere else. The new owners were terrible. They went out of business very quickly because they did so many wrong things, and that would have taken us out of business. But I had to go and collect every shoe they had in their warehouse because they weren't paying us. So I took all the shoes back, and then we went to all the schools within a 5-mile radius and went to see all the PE teachers, and we sold our shoes at half price, half the retail price. But we were getting more money than we got from the distributor, so we made more money, and we sold all those products.
So you're a master at pivoting and creating new opportunities and thinking outside of the box, Joe.
Well, that's what we had to, yes. I mean, if the bank manager knew that we'd just lost our distribution, he would have gone, well, I don't know what he would have done. He'd probably pulled the plug on something. But no, we made more money on that. So you do these things to help you through. And we had a number of financial scares, but that's because we kept pushing the box and kept trying to do more and more. So when we did get into America, that again was different, because all of a sudden America wanted us, and that was fantastic. Then we talked about white space, and we found the best white space in America was aerobics. We were a small running company doing $9 million. We got to aerobics, and when Jane Fonda bought a pair and used them in her videos, that all of a sudden we couldn't keep up with the supply. In fact, for 4 years, we couldn't keep up with supply. The demand just went all the way through America, then globally. And we went from 9 million to 900 million in 4 years.
That's massive, absolutely massive. And you need a whole different strategy to cope with scaling at that level.
Absolutely. Oh, that was incredible. And that's when Stephen Rubin, who is JD Sports, I don't know if you know JD Sports. Yeah, he is actually Pentland, and Pentland have the major shareholder, majority shareholder of JD Sports. And at the time, they were doing sourcing out of Korea. And so for a deal, he gave us a credit line. And he would be the sourcing company. So he made money out of sourcing. But if he hadn't have had plenty of credit out there, that would have been a disaster for us, because we were taking, all of a sudden, the debt went up to 20 million. And in those days, 20 million debt was incredible. But the demand was such that we soon overcame the financial problem. The only other problem was, how do you get that much product? Because instead of wanting a million pairs a month, which is a lot of product, we wanted 5, 6, 9 million pairs a month. And we were very lucky, because at that time, Nike just had a bad spell, and they had too much inventory. They pulled out of 4 factories, and we moved in. So there's a lot of luck and a lot
But
of opportunity.
it's also about being able to seize those opportunities. Joe, you still coach a number of startups. What are some of the lessons that entrepreneurs and startups and people in business today can learn from your experiences about persistence and timing and white spaces? What advice would you give in our last few minutes here to startups and entrepreneurs today, especially young people?
Well, the most important thing to remember is to have fun. If you're not enjoying it, it's going to be too hard, too difficult. You must go into something you know, something you can have fun with, something you enjoy. So most important thing is fun. And the second most important thing is fun. Knowing your job, it really, whatever you go into, and it's, as I said, looking for white space, where can you make a difference? How can you make a difference? It's no good being like everybody else. That's tough, because you're knocking on a lot of doors. You want people to come to you. You want people to say, wow, that's good, be attracted to you. So
Well,
the
Joe,
important thing.
you have certainly made a difference to so many lives, and you continue to do so with your speaking engagements all around the world and your support for startups. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to get an opportunity to talk to you. And thank you for sharing with all my guests today.
It's a pleasure, and I'm sure we shall meet again on our journeys around the globe. And lovely. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
I hope so, Joe. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. What an amazing interview with Joe Foster, and so many important lessons. Joe said, if you're not enjoying it, the chances are you won't be good at it. So whatever you're spending your time at the moment, make sure that you're enjoying it. The second thing he said was, know your job. At the start, he and his brother went to shoemaker school so that they could learn the trade. And then as the company grew, they had to learn new skills. Running a $9 million company is not the same as being the CEO of a $900 million company. I think one of the really critical things that Joe said is you have to look for the white space. Where are the gaps in the market? Who are the people and sectors who can benefit from your product or service? And then he talked about the ability to be able to pivot in times of stress and challenges. And Joe said, you need to reframe challenges as opportunities. And certainly he had more than enough opportunities during his career with Reebok. From the very beginning, Joe recognized the importance of relationships and friendships. From the very early days, he focused on making connections and networking. Joe's book, Shoemaker, is available on Amazon. It's both an entertaining read and it's a masterclass in business development. So my question for you is this. Which current challenge do you need to reframe as an opportunity to get out of your comfort zone? And start asking yourself questions that will help you look at the next steps. What else do you need to learn? How can you have fun with this situation? Who in your network can help you? And remember, success is never accidental. So when you're ready to accelerate your success, reach out to me at lynne@lynnepeyton.com.